Hello and welcome. You're watching Viewpoint. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali. This is not the first time that we are talking about the differences between the BJP and its ideological fountainhead, the RSS. And this may not be the last. Sometimes it's dismissed as a common phenomena within the family, only a healthy discourse or disagreement, constructive criticism. But at other times, it is looked at with circumspect, also with a certain caution. What would happen if there were to be an actual rift that dehyphenates the BJP from the RSS? Can the party survive without its parent body? Can there be such an eventuality, and will either the BJP or the RSS be able to afford such an eventuality? What exactly is the level and extent of dependence, and why is it relevant? To discuss all of this, I have with me today Nirja Chaudhary, contributing editor of the Indian Express, also a very trusted voice in Indian politics. Nirja, hello, welcome, and thanks for joining Viewpoint.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nirja, let's begin with the question that I'm posing today. And this is, of course, drawn from your article that appeared on Indian Express. Can the BJP and RSS survive without each other? Your answer seems to be no, but can you explain your argument?
Yes, no, I don't think the BJP and the RSS can survive without each other. The RSS could survive without the BJP. Suppose there was no political front for the BJP. RSS has, is into many activities, so they could survive. But the political face of the RSS also, which the BJP is, has been ever since it was formed as the Bharatiya Janata Sangh, and then 1980 launched as the Bharatiya Janata Party by Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Alkishan Advani. It has had a relationship, that umbilical cord between the two organizations. Now, part of it is ideological. The other part, of course, as we all know and see at election time, is how the RSS Karyakarta comes out enthusiastically to campaign for the BJP. Now, one of the things that has happened this time and has been part of the debate that's taking place is why the RSS Karyakarta did not come out this time as enthusiastically as he or she has done in the past. Now, clearly there are differences that have cropped up, and differences are with the Prime Minister and essentially with the Prime Minister, maybe the Home Minister, and and the Sangh, after the recent Palghat meeting in Kerala, which was supposed to be a Samanvay Baitak, where all its front organizations, 30 odd, were there, and so were the top leaders of the RSS itself, led by Mr. Mohan Bhagwat, the Sarsang Chalak, as well as from the BJP side, you had the party president, JP Nadda, BL Santosh, the organization secretary, and so on. Now, the idea was to sort things out, bring everything on the table, but, and some of that was obviously done. It was a 3-day meeting. But for Mohan Bhagwat to make a statement after the Palghat meeting,
yes,
to say, refer to the,
personality cult.
Yeah,
he talks about
personality cult, but people had to see, you couldn't be God yourself. People had to see the God in you. Now, it was seen by many. There was no name of Narendra Modi taken, but it was seen by many as alluding to Narendra Modi's reference to his non-biological roots when, during the course of the election campaign, he told an interviewer this, that he felt that while his mother was alive, he felt he was biological. After that, he felt he'd been sent by God to fulfill a purpose. And he got his energy through this non-biological means, words to that effect. So it was seen as the RSS Sarsang Chalak criticizing indirectly, as he's done in the past. After the elections, he made 2 other statements, and that it was a criticism of the Prime Minister. This showed that not all the things had been sorted out between the RSS and the BJP leadership. Now, what those things are, you and I can speculate on. But
I have 2 questions around this statement, Nirja, if I may. First is that why was it necessary to make it public? And second is Prime Minister Modi being singled out. Is there a specific issue with PM Modi that is being underlined? Because, like you said, he seems to be alluding, and it literally leaves nothing to imagination, because that statement on not being non-biological is being brought up by the opposition time and again. So, quite naturally, one would assume he's referring to that. So, what would you say to this? Why was it necessary to make it public in this manner?
That shows, that you see, the RSS has been unhappy on several counts. Partly that they have been marginalized. This happened in Gujarat also, when they were very unhappy when Narendra Modi was the chief minister. Uh, and their views and concerns are not taken on board. Though, the flip side of the story is that Narendra Modi has done what the previous Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee did not do, which is to fulfill the core agenda of the RSS, as probably no other leader has done. He has, gone ahead with the Ram Temple. He's abrogated Article 370. He's gone in for triple talaq. He does talks now. Uttarakhand has gone in for uniform civil code. Other states ruled by the BJP may do likewise. On the education front, which is very dear, cultural and education front, which is very dear to the RSS, people, how the textbooks have been revised. People are placed in very critical positions, people who are close to the RSS, in the world of academia, in the world of bureaucracy, and so on. So it can be argued, yes, Narendra Modi has done more than any other leader in the past in terms of implementing the core agenda. Therefore, why is the RSS unhappy? Now, it could be that the RSS people say privately, of course, that, if they use the word Vyaktivad, which I've used in my article, this fostering of a personality cult, instead of giving primacy to the organization, which they value. And so much power concentrated in the hands of one individual. So those are things at an ideological level that they may have reservations about. But my point is, while the RSS did not work as it has done in the last election this time, and many also feel that RSS deliberately did that to rein in Narendra Modi. Like I called it Ankush election 2024. To give
But
the
Richa,
leadership.
I want to ask you, how can you really denounce the personality cult? I mean, you and me know that you need that sort of a leader, a unifying force, someone that the party will rally behind. How else will you galvanize the cadre? So for the RSS to have an issue with that, don't you think it's a political compulsion as well, isn't it?
Well, they would. It would be interesting, to get both sides to argue that. But to have a point, all our parties in the country, there is a personality cult, like it
Yes.
or not, and it revolves around one leader. But perhaps they felt the concentration, the excessive concentration of power in one set of hands, is what they were unhappy about, and therefore their concerns getting turfed out or not given the kind of importance they felt they should have been given, right or wrong. Now, because the government is a coalition government, the BJP does not have a majority this time. It has to run like a coalition government. And in that coalition, it's not only going to be the allies who are important, whose concerns have to be on board, RSS too, because the party relies on the RSS for election purposes. Though I must say, and this is very interesting, Mr. J.P. Nadda, the party president, during the course of the election campaign, had made this extremely explosive and controversial statement saying that the BJP is now saksham, competent, capable to run its own affairs, and it did not need hand-holding by the RSS. Now, the interesting part of the story is that knowing that the RSS has been unhappy with this statement, coming from the party president, and many people believe that Mr. Nadda could not have made such a statement without a go-ahead from the top, from the high command. Mr. Nadda has made no attempt to deny it, or to say I was misquoted, or to say I was misunderstood. Normally leaders do that.
Are you saying this has the consensus of others as well? It could not be just Mr. Nadda's sentiment expressed. He came from a place of confidence to say such a thing because he knew there were others who also felt the same.
You see, if it had been only Mr. Nadda and he was indiscreet and he got carried away in the heat of the moment, then by now he would have said, look, I didn't mean it like that.
True,
Of course, he
true.
had relied on the RSS. We are part of the Sangh family. He would have clarified it in some way to make amends. But he's not
Mhm.
done that. And that has reinforced the impression that it was only not only Mr. Nadda, but that sentiment, that we can take care of ourselves, came from, from the high command backing, right or wrong. That is the way it has been read. Now, that being the case, the RSS was quite unhappy with this and maybe held back during the last phases of the particular. It hurt them. It hurt the party in UP because
Yeah.
Dalits had moved away. The Rajputs did not vote as they were expected to. The EBCs, the extremely backward in the eastern part of UP, did not vote the way they were expected to. And one of the legacies of this prime minister is that he has widened the base of the Bharatiya Janata Party. It is no longer a Brahmin Baniya party. You have all these lower communities which have been part of it and have voted for it over the last 10 years, Dalits included, EBCs, OBCs included. So that has
So I
come as a
understand that is why you are saying, in fact, you mentioned it in the article as well, that they can ill afford to antagonize the RSS. Some amount of the fallout of that was visible in the results. But I find it interesting that you bring up the caste census issue as well, where the two seem to be on opposite sides. And again, you say that probably it is to take the sting out of the Congress. Do you see that issue becoming a critical one between the BJP and the RSS? How will the BJP reconcile itself to the fact that RSS is taking a different
on the
position on caste
caste census,
census?
the BJP has been very ambivalent,
Hmm.
non-committal. It's not taken a position. And Rahul Gandhi is hammering away. The India Alliance partners are hammering away. Now, in the elections, state assembly elections a year ago, this did not have traction. But in this Lok Sabha election, it seems to have had some traction. I think we need to do a greater study on it, what kind of an impact this demand for caste census is having at the ground level. But generally, it is supposed to enthuse the OBCs, EBCs. And it is believed that if the Bihar caste census yielded 65% of OBCs, not 52 as was revealed by the 1931 census, then uh, naturally the OBCs will ask for a greater share of the pie. And that will have an impact on your politics in the months and years to come. So it is a hot potato. And it is also very interesting that the caste census or the socio-economic survey that was done after the census in 2011,
Yeah.
the findings of that caste census have not been made public, even though the UPA was in power, UPA that is demanding another caste census, but is not said a word on that, nor has the NDA, which succeeded UPA. In such situation, you can always find people leaking a little bit of information. That's how the system works. But none of that has happened. So what did the 2011 caste census actually reveal? We don't know at all.
We don't know. Right.
That apart, it is becoming uh, 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 an issue that makes the BJP uncomfortable. And what I have said is perhaps possibly the RSS, by coming out in favor of a caste census, but having a condition attached to it that it should be done used for social welfare and not for political purposes or for electoral purposes, which is very difficult. It's very difficult to separate that. But having said that, are they coming to the rescue of the BJP in the forthcoming assembly election? Now that the RSS says, yes, we should have a caste census, some of the sting goes out of the opposition's campaign or the Congress's campaign for a caste census.
Yes, that's what you say. But isn't it also true that the Congress is hoping that the casteist, agenda will somehow be an antithesis or counter the Hindutva one? That is how they will be able to chip
That
away
is
from
that has been the
from the
old
Hindu
concept,
consolidation.
Mandal versus Kamandal or Mandal versus Mandir, which used to be
Yes.
talked about in the 90s, where the caste alignments were forged to counter the Hindu nationalism and Hindu consolidation. So yes,
Yes.
and in this election, the India bloc found that the EBCs, OBCs, some Dalits, Muslim, they started to gravitate. That's why the BJP is down to 33 seats in Uttar Pradesh, which really came as a shock. So I think it is politics. It's in the melting pot. Everything is, is a manthan going on. And my own reading was the RSS trying to come to the rescue of the BJP on the caste census by agreeing to it, and so it doesn't remain as potent an issue in the coming elections? Or
Okay.
the other thing is, has the RSS also gone a fundamental change, like the communist parties did in the 90s? When they were
That's
they
interesting.
were supportive of the Vishwanath Pratap Singh government, which brought Mandal, and they recognized, they began to recognize caste as an entity for analysis. So Mohan Bhagwat, who also came out against, asked for a review of reservations in 2015, and as a result, the BJP lost in Bihar. He himself is now saying reservations must continue as long as there's social discrimination, if necessary, for 200 years. So that's a huge change that's taking place. Now, is this a tactical change? Is it a fundamental change? That, of course, only
And
they
will
can.
the BJP conform to it? That is again another question, because, like you said, they've been ambivalent. It seems that walking a tightrope, not willing to come out with a clear position as of now. But one important point that you raised as well, and you mentioned it just now as well, that very clearly the RSS did not fully back the BJP, probably because of which you could see, the Charso Par statement did not go down well on them. Wouldn't then that be a reason for the BJP now to reach out to its parent body, make reconciliatory moves? Do you see that happening, or do you think the BJP
Well,
doesn't seem to have shown much concern?
this has been happening. There have been series of meetings in Rajnath Singh's house. There's a very important meeting with the senior BJP leaders and the senior RSS leaders, a small group meeting. So they are trying to sort out. And they themselves, the RSS said, we will sort it out. They say that there are differences, but we will sort it out within the family. So it's not that the attempt is not being made, but
Okay.
bottom line at the moment, what is on the anvil is who will be the next party president. Because for the
Yes.
RSS, the organization and organizational matters are very important, and they would want their concerns to be on board when the party selects its party president. So I think this is probably a tussle going on, pressure tactics going on, so that their voice can be heard on this
And will the
matter.
RSS have a greater say in this as well, you think, on who becomes the next president?
I think people inside the BJP say that yes, the RSS concerns will be taken on board on this. Of course, it's an evolving situation. The RSS, when initially one talked to them, they were talking about Vinod Taude and they were talking about Sunil Bansal, general secretaries of the party, and then realized, they'll have to go for people with a, more, not a higher profile. These two people have worked very hard. Sunil Bansal, of course, delivered UP
What
to
about Devendra Fadnavis? Is that name also
Narendra
one of the?
Fadnavis, should he be moved to Delhi? That was under serious consideration. Will the High Command here be okay with it? The people say no. Now, but the other question, more important question, is suppose the BJP loses or does poorly in the assembly elections, 4 assembly elections that are down the line this year, will they then have to willy-nilly opt for a more senior leader as the party president to be able to handle it and take charge of the situation? And could that be Rajnath Singh? Could that be Nitin Gadkari? Could that be Shivraj Chauhan? All of whom have great experience. So
Would
all
you say
evolving situation.
yeah, and it would reflect where the relationship between the two stand, isn't it? I mean, once you know the choice of the person, would you say that that would also say a lot about where the two stand and whose, word has prevailed in the current situation?
Look, as I have said, while this tussle goes on from time to time, and therefore, you listen to me, I listen to you, I will have my way in this, or you have your way. All this goes on in any organization. Now, in the Sangh Parivar, also we are seeing this pan out. But at the end of the day, the RSS needs the BJP and the BJP needs the RSS. The RSS does not want the opposition to come to power and dismantle all that the BJP government has put in place, undo the appointments, the people who've been put in, very important critical positions. So it would not want that to happen.
But still, are you saying the BJP has more to lose? Because that is what you began by saying. It's the BJP that has more to lose in all of this if there are differences that keep cropping up.
You see, BJP can say, Mr. Nadda can say we are competent enough to take care of our affairs. And maybe they are. But certainly this election didn't show it. Because the RSS seemed to have pulled back, reined in its cadres. The party did not do as well as it was expected to do. So I think there is a realization on both sides, probably, that they need each other. They'll have to hang together.
So net, like in conclusion, if you can sum up for us, you're saying that despite the BJP staying on course with the RSS agenda, certain objections have been raised by none other than Mohan Bhagwat. There are issues around how the Prime Minister is operating. So there is a constant, you're saying tussle, but I think there's also a way to rein in the party. To what extent will the party continue to agree to rein in? Is there a concern there you feel that this is just a part of the deal? It's just part of the process and no one is going anywhere, given the fact that you will not give an upper hand to the opposition, especially when coalition politics has already stepped in?
At the heart of the whole thing is the mandate 2024. The people of India have given the BJP plus its allies the mandate to rule. And it is that mandate that the Prime Minister and his team have to work out. The skill with which they do it is what they will be remembered for. And it is also a fact, though not formal part of the mandate, RSS, given the way the BJP is structured and seen as a progeny of the mentor RSS, also needs it, when election time comes or of course, that relationship has undergone a change. You remember in 2014, when Narendra Modi came to power, he'd taken his entire cabinet to meet with Mohan Bhagwat and his team.
True.
For that exchange, what is happening on this program, what is happening about this. But in the years that followed, that did not happen anymore. So he moved away. He's his own person and would like to be his own person. This is what Atal Bihari Vajpayee used to chafe against. That the RSS was breathing down his neck. And he felt he'd been elected as the Prime Minister of India on his own steam and was running the show with the other political parties. So Mr. Modi feeling hemmed in is understandable, but if the party has to rely on the RSS or whatever ABCD, then that you have to take their concerns on board also, because this is part of power sharing. ABCD people you rely on to run your government or to be in government.
So the umbilical cord, Nirja, has to remain intact to a certain extent. Maybe there is a depletion, but you can't entirely sever that cord as of now.
That umbilical cord would have remained or become kamzor had the Prime Minister come back with more than a 303 majority. It would have been a different story. But this too is a reality, and the reality is what a politician has to work with.
Accept. Right. Interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Nirja, for giving us your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.